Welcome to Top of the Key, where we get to the heart of the game on and off the court. I'm Nikki Fargas, and today's guest is more than a legend. She's a force that changed the trajectory of women's basketball. She's a Hall of Famer, an Olympic gold medalist, a two-time NCAA champion, and quite frankly, one of the most dominant athletes to ever touch a basketball, male or female. But beyond the stats and the spotlight, Cheryl Miller is a story of grit, resilience, trailblazing leadership, and impact that echoes across generations. So today, we're going deeper into her upbringing, her mindset, her influence, and how she sees the game now. Cheryl Miller, welcome to Top of the Key.
That's quite an introduction. I hope I can live up to all of it in this interview.
Oh my God, live up to it. You have lived up to it and then some. So thinking about as a child growing up, we're always aspiring to be better than, and our parents are always wanting us to have more than what they have.
True.
Talk to us a little bit about your upbringing.
Two parents in a home.
Yes.
My dad was in the military. He was in the Air Force. Mom was a registered nurse, which came in handy with 5 kids. I have 2 older brothers, and the age difference is 7 and 6. And then, of course, Reggie is a year younger, and I have a baby sister who's 4 years younger. And everything was a competition. Racing to the breakfast table, Monopoly, card games, hopscotch, football, tag football, baseball, softball, basketball, everything was about the competition, and that's where it began.
So I heard where Reggie was talking about, when you talk about competition, that you two would go out just seeking games. You
just finding somebody to get a run on. Absolutely.
Yes.
See, I quite, being the older sibling, I didn't understand why I was the one always having to stumble out of the bushes and I'm looking for a partner, but that was my role. And Reggie and I would just literally try to find a pickup game where we could.
Wow. And thinking about growing up with so many competitive siblings,
yeah.
How did that just help shape who you are today?
Nikki, in so many different areas.
Right.
Number one, confidence, because I've always felt that if I could beat a boy, I could beat anybody, because that was the bar. And having 2 older brothers, they were never, ever going to allow me or give me an advantage. I had to take what I wanted. So that set the temperature for me at a very young age. And daily getting better and better, learning what competition was, fair and unfair. Never allowing myself any excuses. So what, it didn't matter, I was a girl. The concrete, the gravel still felt the same when you hit it. When you hit that gravel, you came up with this, your knees bloodied and everything else, it was the same. And I was never given any advantage, on and off the court. But that's what I learned the most, was just the pure grit and fight and never make any excuses.
I love that, not making any excuses. Pete Carroll, he has 3 simple rules.
Love him.
And one of the simple rules, one of them is you're protecting the team, protect the family, protect the brand. The second one is no whining, no complaining, and no excuses.
And no one's listening.
And no one's listening, that's right. When you look at your career, and we've got to talk about, the 105 points that you scored in a high school game. How?
Norte Vista, the high school, still trying to figure that out to this day. You know what, Nikki, it's just it was one of those games in which everything felt fine. I was bouncier on the floor. The left hand, shots were going in. And it wasn't until somebody recently said, so there was a 3-point line. I said, no, there was no 3-point line. And upon further investigation, I realized that I only played 3 quarters. I never played the final quarter. And I was thinking, can you imagine, Nikki, the damage I could have done? Give me 8 more minutes and a ball in my hand. So, but again, the final score was 179-24 or 36 or something like that. But I wasn't the only one scoring. So I was on a very talented team.
Well, I think when you look at scoring 105 points, no 3-point line in 3 quarters, that's just a small glimpse of your greatness. A small glimpse of your greatness, because then you carry that over and you go to SC, Tell me, what made you choose SC?
The two biggest reasons were Pam and Paula McGee.
The McGee
The
twins.
McGee twins.
Yes.
I mean, you talking about dominant post players. Pam was back to the basket, but could still step out what you guys now call a jumper's corner. We used to call a short corner. And then Paula was face the basket, and she was booking to booking at the top, at the elbows, and could drive and penetrate and shoot and stretch the defense. And on my recruiting visit at home, we're on the couch, and Linda Sharp has already done her speech, and Mom and Dad are entertaining her in the kitchen. And I'm just talking to Pam and Paula, but I'm noticing that, my space is slowly but surely getting invaded. And now they're sitting directly right next to me where I can't even swivel. And they said, look, we've got a proposition for you. You could play 2 years with us or 2 years against us. And I was like, all right, where do I sign? That was it. That was it. But what's even more interesting, and people, again, don't realize back in the day, if you wanted to go visit a Tennessee, which I was being recruited by the late, great Pat Summitt, but at the time was Pat Head, you had to fly yourself out. So you could only afford where, Mom and Dad or just Mom's wallet, could take you. And SC was the right choice, obviously.
Well, Pat Head Summitt, obviously one of the greatest coaches to ever grace this earth. They should have flown you out there. I'm just saying. I mean, now with everything is going on, somebody. What happened to Tennessee Lady Vols? Like, we could have had Cheryl Miller. What are you talking about?
Absolutely.
So, but no, you went on to win back-to-back national titles, and how do you continue that competitive grit year in and year out, where you were able to win back-to-back? Because it's hard to just get the first one.
Yes. It's one thing to get to the mountain, which is the challenge. It's another thing sustaining it and staying there. But again, when you have teammates like the McGee twins, and then coming off the bench with Cynthia Cooper. Are you kidding me? We got Cynthia Cooper, perhaps one of the greatest WNBA players of all time, should certainly be in the conversation. But the practices were so far more intense than the actual games. And we would not allow each other to get comfortable. That was the key to our success, is that we were not only hungry, but we held each other accountable.
Love it. Did you feel like when you were in the practices, you guys knew exactly what you needed to do? How much of the coaching had to come into play? Because it sounds like when you're winning championships, you tend to coach yourself.
Right. But we needed a strong coach that was soft and had the wisdom to allow us to be ourselves. And Pat was a little bit different formula, different strategy, but the same wisdom. And Linda Sharp knew who she was, recruiting, knew so much more about us and our family, our upbringing, our likes, our dislikes, our desires, our goals, our dreams, and she listened. When you're a young adult or becoming a young adult, and you have an adult listen to you, actually listen, and not immediately give you the advice, but help you, teach you how to process that. Sometimes better than your own parents, because your parents are hovering, they're helicopter, parents, because they're trying to make sure to keep you on course and everything out, and lead you to where you can put yourself in a position to go to college. And Linda Sharp was the real deal in that respect.
Yeah, I think the thing that stood out with Coach Sharp, when you have so much talent, people look and say, oh, is there going to be enough balls to go around?
Can you preach that a little louder, Nikki? Can you preach that? You know that. Well,
yes.
Why she should win.
Yes.
It doesn't work out like that all the time. Right. That's not. There's such a deep secret in the sauce when you do have talent, because you have to navigate egos, and we all have them. We all have them, and different personalities, different environments. We had Cynthia Cooper, who had, I want to say, diarrhea of the mouth, would never shut up. Could not shut up. But, Coach navigated that. You had the McGee twins, who were polar opposite personalities. One who was Paula, the preacher, and then Pam was the philosopher with no philosophy. I mean, we just, and then you had me from Riverside, who I grew up in Mayberry, and I was a white black. They're like, you didn't know what it's like to be black. You ain't black. You from Riverside. So yeah, we were a cast of characters.